Hello, lovelies. So yeah, I just wanted to say I was a mind control survivor. More specifically, what they call MK Ultra or the Project Monarch. Um, I am also a possession survivor. It seems I was possessed for a good chunk of my life when I was roofied, possessed as a child by a Jesuit witch, and I had to dig through my memories, a lot of which I thought were dreams that I didn't really think about, when they occurred when I was a child, and I needed to review them when I was an adult. Yeah. So I'm still getting my shit together here, but I'm doing pretty well. And I just, with all this sex stuff coming out and everything, I totally agree with a good chunk of it. Like the people resisting it and everything, especially the non-consenting stuff. That's the non-consenting stuff. And then people like shit pick, like Candace Owens, and others. She the other day just was like, there was a 15 and 25-year-old. Oh my God. And, I see that situation, and instead of getting all emotional and everything, I'm just like, whatever, they're pretty close. It's better than Jerry Seinfeld dating the 15-year-old, isn't it? So yeah, that's nearly, maybe, crossing the line. I don't know. It's pretty close to high school and college dating, and I just don't give a fuck about that shit. I'm not trying to participate in it, but I also just don't give a fuck. Like there's other problems in this world that are greater than that. There are people's homes being burnt down. Oh, we're going to get rid of your fire insurance 6 months beforehand, but we're going to make sure have our terrorism insurance for 9/11 intact. And it's all a lie and it's all a scam. It's so illegitimate, the federal government. I would say just, leave it up to the states and shit. States and towns, is where it's at. You don't want to have a president because that one could be controlled and manipulated and groomed as a child, and I'm sure they'll do the same to the governors, but at least you'll have like 50 governors convening, maybe from the territories too, so you'd have like 54, and they should convene and act as a president as a whole, in a group. So yeah, I feel rubbed wrong because I was possessed, and everyone that I ever fucking knew me as a possessed person, and I'm still working on trained into me habits. One thing I think the possession did when I was younger, into my adulthood, was to kind of make me annoying. Where I, try not to be. I really, but sometimes, I have that urge, that was trained into me. So that's something that I still got to work on. Even though I'm dispossessed, I still got to work on the habits that it trained into me. So I'm doing that. I'm happy that I do have some helpers, and some seem to be Freemasons. It's nice that I heard David Icke talk about the Freemasons, and they're like, yeah, I don't think they're going to their little Freemason meetups and doing this world domination stuff. They're just kind of like controlling things and making things, work in America, whether it's the mail system or your nonsense justice system, or just the construction. They do build a lot of houses and everything and habitats for people to live in, and they're just kind of doing their thing, but they get used and played out too, like in 9/11. There's these other cult above them, or that sees themselves above them, and they're like, we're going to sacrifice all these firefighters because there's a lot of firefighters that are Freemasons, and I don't know if they signed up to that. They probably didn't. Very likely didn't. So I understand the lines, could be blurred and the waters could be muddy. because there's a lot of really trashy ones out there that would claim that they're Freemasons when they're not, and they would be doing a bunch of evil stuff just to smear the Freemasons. Right, right. This makes sense. So yeah, I'm not going to shit pick about some almost adults with some younger adults. That's just like, I mean, you have tens of thousands of people's homes intentionally being burnt down to make way for fucking like smart cities, doing these insurance frauds, but like calling it legal and legit. Get rid of your fire insurance, but oh yeah, 9/11, we're going to have the terrorism insurance once in a lifetime. We didn't want to rebuild the building or tear it down. Cost a lot of money, but if we blew it up and blamed it on some other country that wasn't involved and use all your children to go do a bunch of evil things under the guise of niceness to Afghanis and Iraqis, and the other countries that we messed up as a result of us attacking ourselves. It was we who attacked ourselves on 9/11, and nothing, and nothing more. So, um, so yeah, I don't want to be a deep state bitch because I was like being groomed for the whole president thing, which is why they were just like getting their children to like bend over in front of me and touch themselves and all sorts of inappropriate things. But also I was possessed too, and it really does make me look back at all the true crime things that I watched. And I'm like, and a lot of the perpetrators would be like, it's like I was possessed, and it's like, and it's not necessarily be mad at that person, but you should probably be mad at the people in the background doing these things to someone as a child or maybe in their adulthood without their knowledge or consent. And it's a real thing, and that's why they gaslight people that it's not a real thing. Oh yeah, possession, that's just like in the movies like exorcism, and if you can't rotate your head 360 degrees, then you're not really possessed. Just nonsense shit, is what they teach, is what everyone, nearly believes is a bunch of nonsense, stuff that isn't true. It's a little disheartening, but I and some few others have been able to awaken, and, I'm glad that the Epstein files is getting to the deeper stuff. I don't want to be entirely distracted, though, because there are a lot of what I would say is anti-Semitic things is genociding Jesus's people, still occurring. And now we're all focused on obviously the nonsense investigation of Charlie Kirk's assassination. They're obviously trying to just hijack the youth and control the youth through turning points, which they're, now controlling. And they're, it's like Charlie would have been against that. It's like, why are you even entertaining this shit on a daily basis? It is a disservice. Ian and Candace and Tucker and the rest, y'all just focusing on this. Jesus's people are still being genocide. I mean, but at least they weren't sexually abused, because that's the worst, I hear. That's the worst. Not, having your like limbs blown off and fucking, starving to death and everything. That happening to children, just whatever. Look, there's weird people doing weird things, and and a lot of it's non-consenting, and I am on your side with the non-consenting stuff. There's some weird, that 15 and 25-year-old that Candace mentioned just recently in an episode. It's Valentine's Day, February 14th, so like a few days ago, I don't know. I occasionally watch, and you look, that's a sexually erring person at 15. Also, the same for the 25-year-old. Shit happened to them when they were a child. Maybe they got possessed. I can't really fault them for that. So when I see those situations, I just can't get upset. I know people like to grandstand and take things too far. Look, could you just tell us, Billy, where did Michael Jackson touch you? Those child protectors. Look, we just want a little bit of money. He has a lot. Just like, where did he feel you up? And it's that energy also I don't agree with. So yeah, people like to grandstand on these things. I can't really fault a 15 and 25-year-old as as socially abnormal as people might make that seem. I don't know their history. I don't know shit about them. There's a good chance that one or both of them are possessed without their knowledge or consent, and that they have been mind controlled in very manipulative ways, probably by some, secret military AI that's been doing this shit to us for decades. So, yeah. I think, if I didn't mention it earlier, I think the people, everyone that I knew, deserves to know that I was, possessed. And that I was never really myself when we knew each other. And, and I'm sorry it was like that. And yeah. So I just felt like making a little quickie dicky rant here. You guys have yourself a lovely day.